I'm curious, when did you guys know the decision for WrestleMania is going to be Vince and Hogan? Obviously by February and March, you knew, but when, I mean, did you know 6 months out, 3 months out? And who suggests Vince McMahon is the right opponent for Hulk Hogan?
Well, for me, that was a big part of bringing Hulk back, because as big as Austin and McMahon was, the idea was to get, you know, the ultimate for nostalgia purposes would be Vince and Hogan, because it was the ultimate heel and Vince McMahon against the ultimate babyface from yesteryear in Hulk Hogan. And I thought it was important to get to that match. So in my head, we were always going to that. That was a big thing of getting Hulk back and pitching that idea. He wanted to do it. He being Hulk wanted to do it fairly soon. And I was like, God, no, build to this. And let's get to WrestleMania with it. I thought it was a WrestleMania match.
Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon. If you watch nothing from this show after we've talked about it, you need to watch this. This is the match that seemed to be promoted as the main event of the show, and Hogan's career is on the line in this match. And of course, Hogan's out first and then Vince McMahon. And to my surprise, this is a more than passable match. I'm not going to say it's like a 5-star clinic, but I am going to say that these guys worked their ass off, and they proved that in order to get a lot of heat and to get the fans behind you and to tell a story, you don't have to use 100 moves. But there is crazy shit going down in here. They're hitting each other with chairs. Everyone's bleeding. Vince McMahon's blading. They're setting up table spots. Vince McMahon climbs a fucking ladder and puts Hulk Hogan through a table. You hear me? Vince McMahon put Hulk Hogan through a table when he jumped off a goddamn ladder. But maybe with a leg drop, cause you know, that's heat, roll tide. But maybe the most iconic scene from this entire match, and you know what I'm going to bring up. You and I talked about off air, because I asked, how long did you guys practice or set up, or ahead of time did you decide you wanted that Vince McMahon peeking over the apron with that devilish grin as his face is just covered in blood when he pulls the pipe out from under the ring? So he sees Hogan laying prone in the ring. He's looking for a weapon to sort of finish him off. He finds a pipe, and when he peeks up, the camera catches every bit of it. It's like out of a Hollywood movie. And to my surprise, you said,
good camera work.
It wasn't planned.
No.
So it was just, the guys knew, you know, hey, Vince is over there. Let's shoot and see what happens when he comes up. And Vince just happened to do it, and it happened to be caught on camera, and it feels super set up. But you say, nay, that was organic and it just happened.
100% organic. That's Kerwin Silfies, great directing. Stu or Marty or whoever the hell it was that got the shot, and, you know, Switcher in the truck, seeing it, whoever pointed it out, say, hey, watch Vince over here, get that camera there. And sometimes, man, you get lightning in a bottle, and that's what they did.
Now, you told us the story on the Roddy Piper episode, but we'll tell it again here briefly. Piper was not always part of the plan for this match, and you guys reached out just right before WrestleMania to sort of make the deal for him to appear here, right?
I called him the Friday night before, and what are you doing? I'm just sitting here, and pitched the idea to him. It was something that Vince and I had talked about, where we wanted to do. He felt the match with Hogan needed something, and was looking for something from the outside to make it that big pop, that big moment. Being in Seattle, knowing that Piper lived in Portland, but also just when you look back at the 80s, who were those icons? It was Hulk and Roddy. I pitched Piper, and Piper was not a popular name. Not, one of Vince's first picks. But people in the office, Roddy could be somewhat difficult to work with at times. And I knew that anybody else would have poo-pooed it, but Vince listened and was like, call him and see if he's interested. And we did. He drove down, snuck him into the hotel, got him into the building. And like I said, people thought that he was there to do an appearance. Like he was going to be up in one of the boxes as one of the legends to sign autographs and hang out with people at the event. But, I walked him out, put him in a trench coat, walked him out into the crowd, big hat on his head. And we stood and watched the match underneath the one of the sound trusses and sound areas there. And when it was time, I walked him to the ring, moved the security guard out of the way, and got him in the ring. I don't think at that point, I don't even think Jim Ross knew he was a part of the match. Jim knew he was there, but was like, what's he there? I said, talk to Vince, and Vince was just like, don't bother me now, JR. I got a match to do. But I don't even think at that point JR knew that he was involved in the match.
So Piper comes into the ring. He's wearing a trench coat and a hat, takes the hat off, then the trench coat. The crowd pops. They know the story. This is back to WrestleMania 1. And Roddy picks up the pipe. And he acts like he's going to hit Vince, but instead turns and hits Hogan. Then he blows his nose on Hogan and gets out of there. Vince crawls to Hogan, covers him. Hogan kicks out. Vince goes for the pipe, but referee Brian Hebner tries to stop him. So angry Vince throws Hebner out. He grabs the pipe again and motions for his referee Sylvan to come down. Eventually referee Mike Sparks gets into it with Sylvan on the floor, and Vince hits Hogan with the pipe and drops a leg on him, but only gets a 2 count, and you know what's coming. Hogan hulks up, delivers the 3 punches to Sylvan, and then tosses him to the floor. Vince tries to hit him with a double axe handle, but it's too much for Hulk. He's hulking up, man. 3 punches, the boot, and then 3 leg drops, gets him the pin. Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon, with a handful of moves, go nearly 21 minutes here in a damn entertaining match. And Shane comes down from the back to check on Vince. And Hulk poses, and there's no confrontation, but it told a great story. And the story here is it only took 1 leg drop to beat Andre the Giant, but it took 3 to beat Vince McMahon.
Is that what the story was?
I'm just busting balls. I really enjoyed this match, man. This is a great old school wrestling, is it not?
It was. It was classic. And like I said, it wasn't pretty.
Right.
But it told a great story, and they busted their asses. There were some of those shots, man. You look at some of those punches that Vince is throwing and hitting Hulk in the face and watching Hulk's reaction like, Jesus. It was a great story, man, all the way around. And it was something that it was nice to get there. It was just so nice to get there. And then I wanted, which we'll talk about later on at some point, but I wanted to get there with the hair match later on with the whole Mr. America thing later on, but it didn't happen. And that was just one of my, that was a proud, happy moment for me, because when you have something big like that and have it come off and they have the surprise of Roddy Piper in there, it was just some cool shit. It was some really cool shit.
How is this WrestleMania different from others when Vince, who's normally sort of the puppeteer, is actually participating in a match? His day has to look a lot different, right? It
does. And for those of us, trying to run things, it becomes less stressful because he's worried about his match and you don't have him breathing down your neck, and more stressful because he's worried about everything. So it's, you get both sides of it, and I don't know which one is better, but for me on this day, I was running all over the place, and I had one of those little carts too, with a driver that would drive me everywhere, cause it was just such a damn big building, and I'm fat and I'm lazy. But no, just running all over the place. It was crazy. And he's sitting there, he's trying to get his match, but he's watching the show. And of course he has to nitpick every little thing. So it gets crazy, but at the same time, it's a little less stressful because you don't have him yelling and screaming at you.
Let's talk about Vince. He's in tremendous shape here. And one of the promos It's kind of fun. He says, for 20 years, I've often wondered, who would win in a fight, me or Hulk Hogan. He told us a few years ago, or a few episodes ago, at a trade show, it was actually kicked around and discussed. What if he made a spectacle of himself at one of those NAPTY deals and he attacked Hulk Hogan? When this is a marquee match and one of the featured matches, or the money matches, as you called it earlier, how serious does Vince McMahon take the training? We can look at him and see that physically he's taking that serious, but from a wrestling standpoint, how serious is he training? Who with? How often? Where? Talk us through that.
Vince is in the ring every day. And during this time, he's in the gym, he's in the ring, he's training with my brother Tom in the studio. And he takes it very seriously because he doesn't want to be embarrassed, and he wants to go out and put out the very best show that he possibly can, and wants to show everybody that, hey, I can do this. So he's putting everything into it that he possibly can, up all night long, whether it's training in the ring or training in the gym. He's going to show everybody, if I can do it at my age, you can do it at your age.
You think this is Vince McMahon's best match ever?
That it's a toss up between,
can I guess,
some of the stuff he did with Steve.
I was going to guess you were going to say St. Valentine's Day Massacre in this.
Thank you. Yes. The blue cage, the big blue cage.
Mm-hmm.